Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Fintech Asia Token Bites. We always bring in interesting and inspiring stories from founders and industry thought leaders in the world of fintech and Web3. Today, I'm delighted to have with me Camilla Bullock, who is the co founder and CEO of the Emerging Payments Association Asia. She has been a payment leader for many years now and someone I respect significantly and hugely for the work she's done, but also for the person she is. Hi, Camilla, and welcome to Token Bites. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you, Michelle, for having me, and thank you for your kind words.
Good, well, we're delighted to have you, and we've been planning this for a while. And given my recent role as well, it's exciting to have you. One of the things that happens when we are part of industry organizations and leading the thoughts, a lot of times that organization becomes our identity in some senses, right? Having co-founded the Fintech Association, that's what I saw in my few years. Even to now, quite a few people identify me as the co-founder, inaugural GM of the association, and many aren't aware of my story before I was the GM of the association, or co-founder, and I would love to hear more and shine light on the amazing work you've done before EPA. So, what was Camilla Bullock doing after graduation? What were her motivations at the time when she started her career, and what did she
Uh,
do?
so, so it started back in London, actually. That's where I worked first. So I'm Swedish, brought up in Sweden, but studied in Switzerland, Australia, and then went to UK
Yeah,
and landed in financial data industry. I didn't even know that it was an industry, but I worked with Thomson Financial, IDC, as a bond evaluator, actually, for a short stint. Not a lot of people know
nice.
about that, but
Yeah.
then moved into Reuters, that became Thomson Reuters and Refinitiv. So I would say, and I still say when I talk like data is my background in any kind of shape or form, if being reference data, low latency data, big data, slice and dice it. It needs to be clean and standardized, which is what I still talk about.
And how did what motivated you to get into finance? Did you stumble upon it because of the degree you did, or were you always excited about it, or did you have influences that brought you into
I
finance?
was definitely banana peel, just slipped into it. I feel that's been by my life a little bit, but yep, just didn't even know there was an industry called the data industry.
And how did you enjoy what was the things? I know bond evaluation. I go back to my days. I was an engineer and I started as a trader. It was fixed income futures, euro futures. There's a lot of very steep learning curve for me. How was it for you in terms of getting into this world of finance? And what made you stay? What made you continue in the world of data, as it were?
So I was always interested in finance, and that was my background. And I guess for a long time, I felt I was just a little bit outside doing the data into the financial industry. So I did CFA and always had eyes on actually going into fixed income and syndication, with like both intersections still being a bit of sales there.
Mm-hmm.
But I know actually having a position open to me in one of the big global banks, and I had just started to really enjoy life in London and saw the people there working from very early mornings to very late night. So I took the decision to stay within the financial data part of the world. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed being on the cutting edge of discussions that was driving both business but also economy.
Do you want to talk about some of those things that you were seeing at the time when you started your career?
So
What
this was
some insight?
GFC,
Yeah.
and I was actually very involved in CDS pricing. So that
Okay.
was, of course, the driver of the whole GFC and the fall. And I know sitting and we didn't have the prices for some of the MBSs and all those packaged products. And I know that I went into our pricing team and said, why don't we have them? And they said, but Camilla, we can't even see what's in them. And
Yeah.
that was like probably a month before, and then it all came tumbling down. But then moved more and more into sales and actually driving big sales discussions is the way, not just the desktops that I looked at first from Thomson Reuters, and got very involved and interested in partnerships. So I think that is in one way what I still do, really understanding challenges, opportunities, and pairing people in the market for strong partnerships. That's what I think that EPA is doing today. Also, we just see who should talk to who to
Yeah.
create synergy effects.
And it's a quite a different shift, and I get where it is, right? So being very technical, collateral debt securities, mortgage backed securities, right? The structuring behind what was used as collateral and sales by large banks before the global financial crisis. You were there structured as technical, and then you go towards sale, right? Sales. Did you see the technical work that you did helped you with your sales? This is more for people who are looking at building their career and understanding that elements from going from technical to sales, because not too many people think of doing that.
Absolutely. I think everything in sales comes still with trust and to show that you understand that you can be in the other party's shoes. So to establish that, what word am I looking for? Credibility. That you
Sure.
have the credibility, that you really understand that what is this solution going to do for the party on the other side of the table. I think that's really important.
And must have been challenging, right? You're now going from technical side of things, which aren't necessarily as impacted by market elements, although it did cause it. And when you have a financial crisis, technical elements do become more in need in some instances. And going into sales when you're having a lot of financial organizations and consumers of financial products shrinking significantly, right? How did you find that as a challenge? Did that excite you? And what made you stay in sales versus being in more technical role?
Oh, I think I just enjoyed it more and I was better at it. I don't think actually I am as technical. That was something that I really had to apply and study hard.
Sure.
Like the CFA, I didn't roll into it. It was many, many hours. At one point in time, I actually started to lose my hair studying for it because I was so stressed. Well, the relationship piece and the sales process, the building the trust has always come easier to me.
Okay, yeah, and I agree. I think CFA is super intense, so well done to you. I did make an attempt at level one and couldn't couldn't really go through with it.
Now, I have to admit, I didn't do the level three. I passed level two, and that was the point. I got the job at the bank, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do another level. It's too many hours down the sink.
And it is tough. It is real expertise, right? And it's kudos, and I think passing rates are also commiserate to the effort it takes. Now you got into sales. You were enjoying sales, and how did that progress? What were the key things you kind of figured during sales that you thought were interesting as you got moved from more behind the scenes to being, the face of the organization in some instances, first point
I
of contact.
think one thing that I had a colleague I worked closely with, and it was like challenging times within the organization, and we wanted to go down the route, a special route with our product that other people, and he just said to me, Camilla, you have to start to treat your business unit and your product as your company. You
Yeah.
own the relationship with the customers. You go in with that intent, and then you go back and you negotiate with the mothership, the big organization. And that was sort of an epiphany moment to me when I started to think of everything I do is my business. Of course, I needed to hit my targets and so on, but if if I really align with the customer and got the deal across the road, I could always go back and negotiate in-house. So that's something I took away and that I often give as advice. Treat it as something that you're proud for and you live up to the integrity you want to have towards the person sitting across the table, and everything will be easier.
Yeah, and I
Then
think that ownership. Yeah, sorry, go on. Yeah,
I
go
have
ahead.
to add to it, I was made redundant from that company, but still.
Hey, we all learn from redundancies, right? Very few people actually have a record which doesn't include that, and it's multiple reasons that it happens. Sometimes you wish they pulled the trigger than anything else. I was gonna say that when it comes to ownership, it's a very interesting conversation or concept, right? A lot that was similar in some way mirrors what we were encouraged when we joined as very young traders, fresh out of university, our senior management at Futures First in India, GH Financials globally, would encourage us to, it was very entrepreneurial in some senses, ask us for inputs, ask us for our thoughts. And we went like, experienced people giving them inputs. We were fresh grads, and their their thought process was, they wanted fresh thinking, they wanted out of box thinking, and it may take 2 3 years, but it always would come through, and that gave you a sense of ownership and belonging to the firm as well. And in modern world, I think the to add to what you said, I think it's owning, feeling like you're owning it because you then are putting in everything for it, versus feeling like you own it so you can do whatever you want, right? It's like difference in how some
Mm.
consume and work through and not really feel challenged enough, right? And driving and growing, even large organizations need entrepreneurs to be able to continue to grow and sustain what they're doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually one of those early thinking or that shaped or made me stop. It was somebody else, like a really experienced person within the organization, pulled me aside and said, Camilla, I want to give you an advice. When you sit in the team meetings, you always tell the boss all the reason why we shouldn't do something, and then you go away and do it. How I do it, I don't say anything. I just agree, but I don't do it. And that's two different mindsets. You're saying up front, you actually spoke, which I thought as young was right. I wanted to say, why is the challenge here? And then I broke my back to get it done anyway. While more experience was maybe not always being so vocal and float a little bit more under the surface. I can't say what is right or wrong, but it made me stop and think not every discussion is worth taking in the room, to rather just go away and assess how do you want to play this board that's in front of you.
Yeah, it's and then moving and building on top of that, right? And sometimes you don't know what you can do until you try it out
Yep.
almost. And you do see the challenges, but if you can overcome them, it's a lot easier. I think caveats are easier in some senses, saying, I'm going to try doing this, I'm going to do this. I see these as challenges, but I'll come back to you if I face those. Is an approach I think did help for me
Yeah. We
certain.
should give ourselves, the young ourselves, a few advice. I think we would have made the life easier then.
What would you tell your 20-year-old, right? The TikTok generation would love those
Oh,
words.
Michelle, that was just a couple of years ago.
That's just saying, yeah, right. Or maybe much more than that. So, how did you now move from sales to co-founding this amazing organization that has a footprint across Asia now?
So that was probably the biggest banana peel I slipped on.
Okay.
And so when I was made redundant, I was actually on maternity leave. So I had a really important job at
Yeah.
home already, and I was busy. But John Ryan, who's the co-founder of Sweet to Go, which was the first business I set up, which is a consultancy for overseas fintech coming to Australia.
Nice.
And we've just been tossing around ideas, and I've been saying my next sales job, I want to have a suite of product, a portfolio of products, and I always just know the buyer and I understand their problem, and then I dig around in my suite of products and I present what is the
Mm.
solution. So we set
Awesome.
up this consultancy Sweet to Go. And just from him calling one day and said, Camilla, I have this solution, can you connect the solution to someone in your network? So I made a few calls, and the company wasn't set up yet, but the call I made led to the first sale. So we had the sales before we had the company. So we set the company up.
Okay.
That was a consultancy. And then through that consultancy, John met Tony Craddock in UK,
Mhm.
who set up the Emerging Payments Association in UK, who wanted to launch a similar association in Australia.
Yeah.
And John said to Tony, there is no point in launching a payments association in Australia because we already have one that's well established and doing a great job. So that's AusPaynet. But he told Tony, maybe you should look across APAC because APAC is very fragmented region,
Yeah.
both of technology, regulation, habits, language, so on and so forth. And Tony said to John, how about you do it? And John is a great guy. He's always up for a challenge, always sees an opportunity. So John turned around to me and said, I think we should launch the Payments Association or the Emerging Payments Association in Asia. And I said, no way. No, 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 no. I'm busy with this business. I'm liking it. We just got started, things going well. And then he turned around and said, I will do it. So can you do it 4 hours a week? I was like, 4 hours. Okay, I'll do it 4 hours a week. And here we are. I'm doing it, I would say 8 hours a week. No, 8 days a week. And
Right.
sorry. And John and I split ways a couple of years ago, but he's still a big supporter. So that's how it came to be. I never ever dreamt about leading a branch organization. I don't know if anybody thinks when they are young, one day I will have a member association, but here we are, and I'm really enjoying myself.
Yeah, it is one of those which you don't, it's not on the list of career services saying association and organization, but they do have such a big impact on being that fabric connecting people, right? And organizations in particular. And I hear you on the same. It's very fulfilling in a lot of senses, but it's also extremely challenging. I would love to hear how you found that transition from sweet to go versus looking at running EPA and taking over, as full time on it, right? What triggered that final push to say, okay, this is what I'm going to run full time. This is what motivates me and excites me, and what I want to do for the foreseeable future.
Uh, in one way, I sort of didn't have a choice because we had members and somebody needed to run the organization, and John was ready to leave. So it was sort of, I had to. I had to step up and do it, but I was very scared. It felt like a very, very big role with lots of eyes on me. I had a lot of supporters, and John was also there in the background helping me. It took me 7 months to change my role to CEO. It so didn't roll off my tongue at all, and to just say that this was my organization that I was running. But lots of good helpers on the side, and then it's just such a busy job, and it's so many things on the go all the time. So you don't really have time to uh, to think of, oh, how should I do this? The job was already there, and I already had my hand busy, so I just continued, and through times we have got a lot of processes, and the team has grown. So it feels like a grown-up organization now. Back when I took over completely by myself was that it's probably 3 years ago now. Then it looked quite different. So I had to grow a lot together with the organization. That was scary.
And what scared you the most? Like just the uncertainty, or the, the, what's the right term for this? How unorganized this can be, and it's literally going from day to day in some instances with an association. You don't know what the next day is
Yeah,
going to be.
it's still the same thing, that I would probably, and that is letting people down. I
Okay.
find it so much trust in what we're doing, and so
Mhm.
many people is lending their time. And if we then wouldn't carry it all the way on the projects that we're running. So that's always like the trust that people have laid in spending their time and the money with us. I think that that's a big thing. Um, yeah, it's the top thing I say. Then we have other projects that I feel is just really, really important that we land well. We talked quite a bit about the quantum safe cryptography project we have. I feel that we owe it to the industry to drive this through and get the awareness and get policymakers to really understand what's coming down the pipe. So it's two different things, but still all about actually doing the job that we said we're going to do.
And how did, building the team come across? Some of the people in the team have also been with you for many years now. How did that grow, and how have you all worked, collaborated together, and what's the vision of EPA?
And we have a massive vision down the line, but I think we all have grown together, and it's a very flat team where everybody has their lane, but we have to swim together and cross over and back each other up. So we've been growing and learning together. What we would like to see down the line is that we have more, I don't know if the right word is predictability, but that our members and the community really knows when we're running what topics and what market. My vision would really be that, say, this month, as June will be a lot, we're doing the quantum safe cryptography. Okay, boom, now we're doing this in 7 markets this month. We can compare the conversation and the discussion and see what are the similarities, what are the areas where we're not aligned on, because from that comes also what we need to do. I think I speak a lot about alignment and definition and understanding that as an industry, we're bombarded by new things. So we don't even know what we're talking about. So we can sit and talk about words like real-time payments, but we mean 6 different latencies in that. And that has impact. So I think it would be that we have better coverage and better predictability and that things happen at the same time across the region.
And how's the challenge, or what's the challenge rather, of trying to fulfill this predictability, the support, or the expectation that the members have, but of very different size, scale, and their own vision and aims, right? So you'll have, I mean, I'm categorizing this very loosely. You have the global
So
giants like MasterCard and
it is a
others, and you have the
balance, and I
local
think it
large payment
helps a
players like
lot
Australia and
to
others. In
really
some
be
senses,
in the industry and
or you'll
understand
have
the
these
different
international
players.
companies
So
that
to
are more
analyze of
international, and
what
then you have
areas
local players and
what
small
areas do we
startups.
agree on? Because many of the things,
Mhm.
80% of the participants in the market actually agree on the core challenge or opportunity. So it's to be a little bit sensible around those. We shy away from anything that has commercial implications. So that solves a lot of the problems also. But sometimes we really do need to take a position. And that could be positions around access, for example, anything that creates that level playing field that we're after. Because at the end of the day, I think everybody wins if it is a level playing field or with competition and not just a few big players. And I think also the big players actually in the long run wins from that also when they can reach into the pockets of
Yeah,
markets that they wouldn't reach otherwise. We often talk about we're not here to slice the pie, we're here to grow it.
that's beautifully put. Also, one of the things I would love to hear your thoughts on is the Emerging Payments Association of Asia is one of the few cross-border, multi-country regional association. A lot of the associations tend to be more jurisdictional or countrywide, right? Which means then culturally things are more streamlined, same in some senses, and handling different cultures is not as much of a challenge because you're typically just taking care of regional challenges you've grown up with. Whereas when you're talking about APAC, and this is a big region, and Asia in itself has so many different cultures, both business as well as at a individual personal level. How have you found navigating that? And what are the tips you would give anybody looking at Asia broadly, which typically tends to be put as one area as Asia, right? So
I think here my passion or my find that I actually enjoy partnerships.
yeah.
That the one of the biggest assets, hands down, that EPA has is our ambassadors. So this is subject matter experts that we uh, have partnerships with, I would say. They are often independent, small consultancy experts in the market that lends us their expertise and the intel on the market while we connect them to each other and we connect them to us. So it's actually, there's no formal ties there, but it's a give and take relationship. And we lean heavily on them to get it right in market. It is a difference in how you do things. We are not event organizers at all. I think rather that we have taken three different disciplines and morphed them. It's like event organization, thought leadership,
Yeah.
and then networking and policy making. And with the help of the ambassadors, we can know how to create that mix in each market. How do we get the people in the room? And how do we get everybody that they feel comfortable? Because without having that trust and making people feel
Yeah.
comfortable, it will just be the same discussion and nothing of value will come out of it, I think.
Yeah. So I guess then relying on people who understand their local markets, and those sensitivities are a big part of it, right?
Yep. Yes, absolutely.
And that takes a lot of trust in terms of often people don't realize, when you are bringing on board people who are ambassadors or partners and others, there is an element of your brand, your reputation, that's your piece of it which you're handing over to them because they are representing you in
Yep.
some senses. So and yeah, the choice, and you have a significant number of ambassadors who are very well reputed. What attracts them to the organization, and how are you going about selecting the right people?
So they have one thing in common. They are PPPs, what we're saying, passionate payments people. And it's those people that doesn't do things just because of what they're getting out of it. They live and breathe payments, and they want to see that the industry is enhancing. So we're looking to have a couple of those in each market. And we're also looking to have a good spread of our ambassadors out of different disciplines within the payments value chain. We're always interested in finding more ambassadors. So if you listen to this and you feel like you are one of those PPPs in, for example, Vietnam or Cambodia or
Yeah.
so on and so forth, please let me know. Yeah, super important in the organization and building trust with that market for us. I think one thing, I haven't thought about this before, but I had a teacher that always used to say, you should never be the smartest person in the room. And I think that's something I really took on board because EPA gets to sit in so many exciting rooms with so many experts. And we just learn to always look out who's the next expert we should bring in. What is the puzzle piece that's missing in this discussion? So that is our expertise in seeing the gap in a discussion and how do we fill that to move the dial.
And that leads to a better understanding of the industry, right, and trends. And sometimes because you have this wider lens, and are in discussion with these experts who, it's not necessarily something that's spoken of in all forums, but there are a lot of these one-to-one conversations or behind closed door roundtables or discussions that take place. What are the key trends that you are expecting for the coming year, as it were?
So I think one discussion that's been with us for a long time, and it feels sometimes we're stuck. And
Mm-hmm.
that's I'm coming to open data or open banking, open finance, open data. I
Sure.
still think, and here my data background comes to the end
Yeah.
of it, is we need to crack it. And I think there is a willingness in the industry to really crack how do we use data better and
Yeah.
how do we make data flow in a consented way between parties in the market to serve either end
Mm-hmm.
consumer and businesses. And I think that more and more will be done around this because even when we're looking at real-time payments, which I don't know if we can call it a trend, but it's being more implemented into different services and
Yeah.
products. And with that, real-time payments is also richer data sets. So what can we do with this richer data set? Yes, we do have all these AI conversations which coming up on a layer. How can we create products that are best suited for businesses or end consumers? Then comes the regulations and policy frameworks around it. What are we allowed to do with the
Yeah.
data? And are we allowed to do it cross-border? So then you can come the next layer with different technologies around those data set, either it be blockchain or be it more privacy enhancing technology or what is it that what can we in technology way enable so we can do more with the data and serve the end consumers better. And I think this will show up in many discussions, and if nothing else, just in what I think will come as tsunamis, all the embedded finance that we still haven't seen really the beginning of that. It's so much more to come in the way of serving end consumer and businesses better.
Are there anything else you're seeing, more so core payments, that you feel is an important trend for the next year?
Sometimes, I mean, it's easy to say what we talk about is a trend, and then we create a trend of it. Something I would like to highlight, I think, it is more important than ever to talk about trade
Yeah.
because like what's happening with
Politics and
yeah with the
tariffs.
tariffs
Yeah.
and also questioning where will those trade corridors be in the future and what are the parties that are going to do business in them. To really crack down, how do we enable trade cross border? And at the end of it, what is trade? Yes, to trade is exchange of services, often digital nowadays, but they will not happen if there is not a payments in it. And what is payment? Payments is the movement of data. And there we are again with the data discussion. So to really understand how we can exchange data in a secure manner and do the best of it,
Yeah.
structured, standardized, I think will be key for many years to come.
Yeah, and you're seeing a lot more data sovereignty requirements, more pri- uh, privacy and data laws that are coming through in most of the major jurisdictions, which then start having that impact on retention of data, as you said, transfer of data, or even access to data cross border. And then with trade being a key element of fabric of the world economy, that becomes super important. You know, a lot of the conversation on stable coins now is about trade, right? How stablecoins can enable multitude of cross-border trade beyond looking at its initial use case, which was on-off ramps for crypto to fiat, right, or fiat to crypto in that sense. That becomes super important. You know, a lot of the conversation on stablecoins now is about trade, right? How stablecoins can enable multitude of cross-border trade beyond looking at its initial use case, which was on-off ramps for crypto to fiat, right, or fiat to crypto in that sense. And beyond the stable coins, I think the key element is going to be how we see real-time payments being integrated as well, right? Where with Project Nexus and others, plus on the other side, once the CBDCs start interacting, which I think is still at a nascent stage. Are there any other things that you're talking about? You spoke briefly about quantum, and this is a conversation that keeps coming up given the rapid advances we're seeing on cryptography, but also on compute, right?
Yes, so this is a very important project and stream of activities we had. We've had it for quite a long time now, for 2 years. We were at the early days when we launched our quantum safe cryptography working group. And it was hard in the beginning. People were really saying, why do you spend time on that? It might not even come. But we strong believers, and I think a majority in the industry now thinks a quantum computer will be made available sometimes between now and in 10 years' time.
Sure.
But before that happens, we have to prepare our security and safety. And that means we need to migrate all cryptography we have today to quantum safe cryptography. So we're not talking about something that's going to happen when quantum computers are made available. It needs to happen now. And I think it's important in our industry. First, we are so many different parts. We are a network industry,
Yeah.
and there are small players and big players. But we can also look at the EMV migration that happened in the card world, and that took about 15 years, and it was not coordinated. And all those different gaps, when the migration hasn't happened, is actually a risk element. And
Yeah.
with quantum, that risk element is going to be so much bigger. We cannot lose the trust in the industry, and hence we have to get everybody on the journey, as well as I always think it's a little bit wrong to say educate. I like that word capacity building for the policymakers on how does this migration look for our industry and what help do we need and
Sure.
who should say what sort of because as you said before, the industry is so different from global massive players to really small niche players that maybe just provide payment services for what should we say?
Anybody, right? Yeah.
Flower, people that grows flowers. That's the beauty in our industry that is
Yes.
so niched sometimes.
And I've always said this when I came into the fintech world from a capital markets trading world, payments was in your face, right? And everybody was first focus was payments. And I was like, okay, maybe this is the initial stuff. Everybody needs payments, so we're going with that. Here I am 10 years later and still feels like there's so much to be done, and there are more and more payment players coming up and new and ways of doing things that it just now I've come to accept that how important and critical fabric it is for finance, that without payments you can't really have finance in any form, shape or form. Now coming to the EPAA, we've spoken about a few initiatives they're doing. Are there anything else you're looking to do this year which the community can look forward to and participate in?
Yeah, we're also launching a project called the Concord Project,
Nice.
which I'm excited and proud of getting off the ground. It's a project where we're looking, yes, that's the Concord plane,
Yeah.
then how light can a remittance be made? So
Mm.
how can we make it as safe and fast and secure as possible? Yes, that's the Concord planes, uh, but to the least cost. So that will be a very interesting project, and we are kicking it off. Our lead member on that is the Moyo Loop Foundation, but all our
Okay.
members is invited and will present a toolkit at Singapore Fintech Festival, I think.
Nice. And talking about fintech festivals, during the Hong Kong Fintech Festivals on the sidelines, we are planning something exciting. Year three of the APAC Payment Excellence Awards. How did this come about? And I'll talk a little bit about my role soon. But what were the drivers for the awards and how you see it growing?
So the awards is really super important. It was asked for a long time from the EPA advisory board
Mm-hmm.
that we need to have an opportunity for the market to shine, to show what's
Yeah.
happening in APAC payments industry. Why are we so innovative? And also like all both rise with the tie. So like yes, showcase and as an industry to come together and celebrate. So we had 2 successful years, and then we had some changes in the team. Unfortunately, we lost the MD, and then I am so blessed with a lot of amazing people around me. So I reached out to someone that I'm really looking up to and been impressed of over the years to take the MD role to lead the program and yeah and have that impact. So Mushir, what do you think about it?
No pressure, as they say. But thank you so much for that trust. I think Linda's done a great job over leading the awards and shining light on some of the great innovations in the region. I'm, of course, delighted and honored to have this opportunity to be the managing director for the awards and work with what's an amazing team, plus the newer people you brought in to the team to support our business development and sales as well. So, yeah, it's quite exciting. And we are coming up to the nomination deadline soon in 2 weeks or less than 2 weeks' time, June 15th. So nominate those shining innovations that are making the difference, bring them to the region's viewpoint, and also help them get more recognition across. Yeah. If the audience listening in. Yeah. Okay.
And I think the things with the awards, so many positive things
Yeah.
comes out of it. It is first to nominate for the team to feel
Correct.
like, okay, we done something is worth nominating. So it's that
Yeah.
team feeling. And then second, it's the amazing judging team of 50 payments leaders looking at your nomination. And then it is if you go through and you're on the shortlist and everybody else sees that you're one of those companies that on the shortlist
Correct.
the first time or maybe the second or the third year in a row. And then to be in the room, celebrate with everybody else and potentially win. The win is the cherry on the top. Just to be in the
Correct.
process is actually the value. Last year, two of the finalists actually went on to the Series D funding afterwards. I don't
Wow.
know the
Okay.
correlation, but I like saying it.
Causation, correlation, let's just make it, right? But
Exactly.
yeah. No, I do look, I was on the jury for 2 years. The people alongside whom I was judging or evaluating, you could see their rich experience, and the organizations they represented were very well known, reputed, both from a startups and technology, but also major payments players. So there's a lot of learning for me as well when interacting with them. But for startups, I think, as you rightly mentioned, it's not just about the exposure in terms of being a finalist and a winner, which is, of course, great, but there are also payment experts who are looking at the solutions, evaluating. So even if you don't make the cut for an innovation necessarily, you still may have a very interesting product that they have an interest in. So that does bring light. So yeah, encouraging everyone listening in to nominate people who are doing great stuff. We also have two wonderful individual awards that we have brought in for this year: a Lifetime Achievement Award and a Payments Expert of the Year award. So if you have, or yourself feel you have contributed significantly to the industry and worthy of recognition, nominate. That's the underlying theme of what we've been saying. Kamala,
Yeah.
this has been a great, yeah, go on, please. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to say that
Okay.
80% of the nominations are self-nominations. People
Yeah.
don't know that. In general, I ask the team. So there is no hesitation. Just nominate yourself.
Yeah. It's sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get the recognition that you're due.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Deserve.
Well deserved. Yeah. Thank you so much, Camilla, for this conversation. It's been a pleasure talking to you in this newer light, understanding more of your story, and also showcasing what the EPA has been doing in the region. I look forward to continuing to work with you, both for the awards and beyond, what FinStep has been doing, but also continuing our partnership as we grow the industry together. Thank you so much.
Likewise, Michelle. Thank you very much for having me, and onwards and upwards.
Thank you. Audience, stay tuned to more of such conversations with thought leaders and industry experts on fintech, payments, and Web3. Click like, subscribe, and follow us for more of this.